Eights are an unstoppable force. With Energizer Bunny type stamina, they are bold, intense, and fiercely independent. They do what others say cannot be done, and for eights, anything that's worth doing is worth overdoing. Known as the challenger or protector, eights present themselves to the world with this tough, invulnerable exterior, and an eight lacking in self-awareness can actually in fact believe that they are invincible. We're talking all about Enneagram 8s today. I'm doing an overview or a breakdown of the basics, but be sure to stick around until the end of the video to find out what the transformational growth path is of the 8, the direction that they need to take if they're going to start living more consciously and embracing real power. 8s belong to the gut triad, also known as the body. This is their first center of intelligence, meaning that the way in which they experience and filter information from the world is first done through the body. They have more visceral experiences, feel more heated, agitated, and aggressive than any other number on the Enneagram. They are intimately acquainted with their anger, that fire in the belly feeling, and they're used to channeling this energy into action. They are doers, problem solvers, and as their name indicates, they are challengers. 8s both challenge and want to be challenged. They view conflict as a form of intimacy, and they respect those who don't back down from a fight. 8s actually want you to step up to their power and prove yourself to be an equal. So it makes sense then that 8s are acutely aware of who has power and who doesn't. More specifically though, they have a great sense of how people wield their power. And when a leader of an 8 is strong, healthy, and clear, an 8 will remain loyal to the direction of that leader. They can handle limitations and boundaries only if they can trust the direction, power, and intention of the person setting the limits. And when a leader wields power in inconsistent or unjust ways, an 8 will call them out and go toe-to-toe. And if you're a leader who suggests for 1 second you don't know what you're doing with your power, an 8 has no problem stepping in and taking charge. They like truthfulness and directness, and they will be watching to make sure that you follow through on your promises, and you do not want to break the trust of an 8. With all their confidence, zest, and natural tendencies toward creativity and innovation, 8s also appreciate and need autonomy, whether that's at home, at work, or on any other type of team. See, 8s have this larger-than-life energy and this fearlessness about them that can be quite intimidating to those around them, especially when an 8 is insisting that their way of doing things is the right way. But what you need to understand about the 8s is that it's not about them needing to be in control so much as it is that they don't want to be controlled. 8s need to be able to use their power and energy freely. This is a tough, like I said, sometimes intimidating exterior, an on-guard posture, if you will. But what's underneath the 8? The unconscious motivator of the 8 is to mask vulnerability or weakness by appearing strong and powerful. And when we know the unconscious motivator, we can very clearly spell out what the fear is. And as I mentioned with the 8, that is vulnerability. See, 8s received this message in their youth and developed a fundamental belief system that the world and people in it are untrustworthy and that they can only rely on themselves. And they have learned to do just that. So by appearing strong and powerful, they are avoiding being preyed upon by those more powerful than them. So what 8s are naturally seeking to soothe this fear is justice, and they have earned their name as the challenger or protector by being the type that bravely stands up to oppressors and gives voice to the small, weak, or marginalized groups of this world. This drive makes them excellent advocates, lawyers, and leaders of all kinds. Having witnessed or experienced injustices or the misuse of power in their own lives, 8s are quick to stand on behalf of those suffering similar situations or feelings as their own. Living in the gut or body triad, the core emotion of the 8 is anger, and each of the types has a core emotion essentially just sitting right underneath the surface, causing us a little bit, or sometimes more than a little bit, of feelings of unrest. And as I mentioned before, they typically externalize it into action. Healthy or unhealthy, that's up to the individual and how much work they've done. Each type also has a passion, and the way I like to describe it is a fixation, something that consumes you and essentially ends up being the cause or source of your suffering. And for the 8s, that passion is lust, not in the sexual sense, rather in the sense of intensity, intense desire or appetite for all things. Remember, anything worth doing is worth overdoing for an 8. 8s are also very future-oriented. In relation to time, they spend their time and energy thinking about what's next, what's upcoming, what more can they do, accomplish, or tackle. And I'm sure that if I asked you to guess the natural stance of the 8, the way that they posture themselves in relation to their goals and others, you'd have no difficulty guessing that they're in the aggressive or assertive stance. 8s go after or directly toward what they want and need. I'll slip in here that as part of the body triad, 8s are also self-forgetting. Specifically, their type tends to forget rest rest and self-care. So with all that future forward motion and excitement of overdoing things, it's probably not surprising when I tell you that the communication style of the 8 is called commanding, sometimes referred to as barking. With all that fervor and focus, 8s actually don't often know how they come across to others and are genuinely shocked when others tell them that they perceive them as intimidating. If this is resonating with you, or maybe even validating to you as an 8, or maybe it's explaining some of your natural tendencies toward aggression as an unconfirmed 8, or maybe you have an 8 in your life that you feel better able to understand and safer to connect with their power and intensity knowing this information, please take a second to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. And then after this, keep binging the other types to get to know their power too. At their unhealthiest, 8s are domineering, intentionally defiant, they can speak before they think, and can sometimes be downright cruel. At their healthiest, though, 8s are tender, thoughtful, relentless advocates that create safe spaces in this world for themselves and others. Of course, it wouldn't be an Enneagram conversation unless we also talked about growth. And though this video outlines the default mode of the 8, how does an average or unhealthy 8 move toward the healthy side of 8? When they're ready and willing, the task of the 8 is to identify and embrace their own vulnerabilities and return to that childlike innocence that was lost in their youth as a way of showing up in this world and connecting with others. This is true strength. Hey, thanks for watching. Now that you're through Enneagram 8, let's move on to 9.